Hope you're doing good. Hope you're diddling. Hope you're diddling? No, I hope you're not diddling. That sounds bad. What's that? I hope you're doing alright. Cheesecloth as well, and just get out absolutely every single particulate layer. Both of those words are wrong. Get absolutely all the particulates out of this. This is a ½ litre. No, it's not. This is a... What size is this? It's just... I've got having a brain fart. There it is. Yeah, that's 500 ml. Yeah, that's ½ litre. At the end of the day, this stuff we've got in here, this is liquid gold dust. So you want to save as much of that as possible. If I'm passing, I'll just skim a little bit of the white stuff off the top, whack it in a bowl, and then we're done. It's a bit of a horror show, but trust me, it's worth it. Okie dokie. Alright peeps, so we're making stock. Now, good building block to not all foods, but lots of stuff. You need stock for loads of stuff. I've got loads of recipes in here. Lots of sauces, lots of gravies, all those sort of things. You use a little bit of stock here, a little bit of stock there. Now, nothing wrong with using stock pots or stock cubes. If you do make it yourself, it just takes it up to that next level. Basic stock, veg stock. So in here I've got 3 carrots, and 3 carrots, 2 onions, and a load of stalks of celery all chopped up. That's your basic building blocks for a good stock. I've also chucked in some mushrooms. I've got a leek that I've halved and, well, quartered technically. There's also a parsnip in there, or you can also go with turnip, Suede. Sweet, hearty root vegetables add like a whole new level of that as well. If you're just gonna do, oh, and there's a head of garlic I've chopped in half, chucked in there. If you're just going to do veg stock, I tell you, use mushrooms. Chuck some mushrooms in there because that'll add that sort of meaty umaminess that you're going to be lacking from a vegetable stock. The next step up really is a chicken stock. Now, chicken, if you can look online and find chicken bones. Most online butchers will sell the scraps of a chicken carcass. Like this, you can see there's a wishbone in there. These are the bits of a carcass that are left over once you've taken the two breasts off, and you take the 2 thighs, the 2 drumsticks and the 2 legs. There's the spine on the top, which is that there. And then this is the bottom of the carcass. You can buy these online, they're really cheap. Or if you have a local butcher, ask him. He might want a couple of quid from him. He might even, if you're a good customer and you buy loads of stuff there, he'll probably give them to you for free because they're for the most part, waste that he's going to be getting rid of. All I've done, stuck them in, spread them out over a couple of baking trays, lubed them up with a bit of oil. Oh, in here as well is the wing tips. That's the tip of a wing. If you make wings, chop that tip bit off, save it. What I do is I have a freezer bag and a freezer for chicken scraps, and I have a freezer bag and a freezer for vegetable scraps. Carrots, onions, celery, leek, mushrooms, things like that. You don't want cabbage, broccoli, I don't think asparagus works very well either. The green cruciferous sort of vegetable stuff. Bok choy doesn't work. It just makes it really, really bitter. Then once I've filled up that bag of chicken bits, I take it out of the freezer, defrost it, chuck it in a couple of baking trays, roast it off in the oven, 200 degrees. You want to get it, you don't need to do this step, you can just chuck it all in the stock pot. But you add whole more levels of roasty, toasty, lovely umami flavours if you roast it off. Now, this is about 30-40 minutes. You can go to it's all this sort of mahogany colour if you've got the patience and you want to keep checking on it and making sure it's not, and taking out bits that are starting to go a bit more than others. What you don't want to do is burn anything. As soon as you burn stuff, you're just adding those flavours and they're going to get compounded and concentrated. And at the end, you're going to end up with 4 litres of stock that you can't use because it all tastes burnt and acrid. And same with the vegetables, make sure they're all clean and they're washed. You haven't got to peel them. I take the top off the carrots and the fibrousy bits off of either end of an onion. But other than that, you can even leave the onion skins on if they're clean. They add a nice bit of colour to the stock as it is anyway. Once that's all roasted, in a stock pot, the third thing I add is a smoked ham hock. Now, what separates homemade stock from all of the store-bought stuff is the collagen. Now, if you buy fresh stock in a pot, you can that'll be refrigerated in the stores, it'll have it as well. But by cooking the bones down, and this is just one whole big joint essentially, you extract collagen and gelatin. I think gelatin turns into collagen, or collagen turns into gelatin, which gives that lip-smacking, unctuous fattiness to a sauce. Well, to a stock. And then when this stock goes into a sauce or stuff, it imparts that as well. Plus, this is going to add smoky richness flavours to it. So this stock is kind of my riff on Bon Appetit's super stock or turkey Thanksgiving stock. So they use chicken and pork. Well, they use a ham hock as well. A few different veg. I've got some herbs here as well. So all of the ends of the parsley that you don't use, the stalky bits, chuck them in the freezer bag or everything. I've got a load of bay leaves and I've got a load of thyme because I love a bit of thyme. So, stock pot. This is going to be your main barrier to entry probably for doing this. I'm doing a big batch. If you were to halve this, you could fit it quite comfortably into 2 saucepans. You might have to get a smaller ham hock. This is a huge ham hock. You can get quite small ones that are about that big. 2 bigger saucepans or a Dutch oven or casserole dishes. It is worth getting a big stock pot like this though. I think this was only, I know it's not cheap, but 30-40 quid. You want one with a decent heavy base, otherwise it's pointless. Because if it's just this thin the whole way down, it's going to scorch everything and it's pointless having it. But it's worth, if you're getting something big, I cook, like sometimes I'll cook for like the whole family, like 10, 15 people, and I'll use that to cook a bolognese. Or I'll cook the bolognese in a couple of cast iron casserole dishes, and then I'll use that to cook the pasta. It does come in handy. It's not ridiculously cheap, but if you get a decent one, you haven't got to spend much more than 30-40 quid. You could probably get away with 20-30 in the Boxing Day sales or Black Friday. This is Cuisine Pro. Pro Cook is a good site to go on for good quality, well-priced stuff. Like I said, get something with a decent base on it. If it's well reviewed, it's well reviewed. Make sure it hasn't got like a really tinny bottom, like super thin bottom. You want a nice heavy bottom on it to distribute that heat. Let's get making some stock. Simple as. So, big pot. You want a kettle of boiling water. I'll show you why in a sec. But with the veg. Now you can roast or fry off the veg a little bit as well if you want. I'm not going to bother because I've got loads of other roasty flavours coming from here. So, got my leek, and I've got a load of celery. The celery flower parts, leaves, they're okay as well. They're all nice. Like I said, you haven't got to peel your onions. Just make sure they are clean. Mushrooms, whole head of garlic. I've just cut in half. The other half is distributed. Again, not peeled it. The carrots I've chunked up a little bit just to make them easier to get into the pot. Same with the parsnip. You can chop it up as small or as fine as you want. What I would say is don't go super, super small because then it will turn to mush. And then at the end of it, when we come to strain it, it'll be a lot harder to strain those bits out. In with our ham hock. So this is a big, bad boy ham hock. They're usually a lot smaller than this, but that's gonna add a hell of a load of collagen and gelatin. I'm going with all our roasted off chicken parts. You can sort of see where they would have come from on the bird. Most of it's at the bottom. Get them all in there. You can see here, like this is the spine. These are the best bits for stock because it's all of these joints where the bones open up. It's a bit of a horror show, but trust me, it's worth it. And the wing tips are perfect as well because they've not got much use for anything else anymore. Now what we're going to do quickly, boiled kettle, these roasting trays. I'm just going to splash in that pan and splash in that pan. Don't need loads. All we're going to do, same as if we were making gravy from a roasting up, scrape up any of the roasted on chickeny goodness on the bottom of the pan. And then same again with the second pan. If not, scourge yourself. Right. Now, in here we're also going to go with, you can tie these all up so you can get them out easier a bit later. Oh, sorry. Make a little bouquet garni. You haven't got to worry about it because like I said, we're going to be straining and we're going to be sieving. Temptation at this point to fill this up with boiling water to get yourself started. I understand. Don't do it. Because if you add boiling water to this, it's going to come up to a boil quicker, but those vegetables are going to almost like harden against that boiled water because they're root vegetables. Anytime you're cooking root vegetables, potatoes, carrots, if it grows under the ground, So in cold water, bring it up. So if you're able to get it to the sink, get it under the tap and fill it up with water. If not, you're gonna have to do it by the jug or by the bucket, or bring the hose in, whatever makes your life easiest. But you wanna fill it up with water. I'm not gonna give you an exact amount of water, you just wanna cover everything. And it hasn't got to be super submerged. Alright, now that's gonna be heavy. I'm a big lad and I'm struggling, so if you've got a stock pot that big, you might want to fill it up on the pot, on the stove. Or not, I mean, don't let me talk down to you. If you're big and strong, you're big and strong. You can give it a stir about if you want, but it doesn't really matter too much because everything's going to be in here cooking for so long. It doesn't really matter where it is in the pot, it's going to get amongst it. So I know this stock pot's 14 and a half kilos. No, well technically yes, science, get into that later. 14 and a half litres. Probably half of that litre is taken up with the solids. So we've probably got about 7 litres of water in here. That's going to reduce down, so we're probably making about 4 litres of stock here. A few things, I'm gonna put some black peppercorns in here, just to add a background heat, warmth note. Maybe about a tablespoon in this much. If you're making smaller amounts, by all means, like I said, make half, make a quarter, make what you can use. There's no point in making loads of this and having to throw it away. It will last about a week or 2 in your fridge. It freezes really well as well, but we'll get to that in a bit. Stick the spurs to it. Stick the lid on for now. When that comes up to a boil, turn the heat right down, take the lid off, and let it just burble away, and we're just gonna let that reduce all down. But that's it for now. This is gonna go for about 4, 5, 6 hours. What you can do as well, it depends again on how clear and refined you want the end stock to be. As this boils and bubbles away, so it's gonna come to a boil, we're gonna turn it down, we want it to just barely burble away, just a very gentle simmer. Whilst it's doing that, there's no other better way of putting this, scum released from mostly the chicken and the ham, but you get a little bit from the veg as well. As that scum releases, it's going to float to the top and you get like a white foam on top. Now in the kitchen, you'd skim that off. It's up to you if you want to do it. I do it for about the first hour or so just to get the bad stuff out. Not bad, it's perfectly edible, it just means you're going to end up with a cloudier, not as pretty looking stock at the end of the day. But I'm going to come by, check on it every 20 minutes for the first hour, maybe for 2. If I'm passing, I'll just skim a little bit of the white stuff off the top, whack it in a bowl, and then we're done. We can take the lid off once it comes to a boil. We want it to reduce down. Once the water line has dropped by about half, that's when we're sitting pretty where we want to be. I'll see you a little, once it comes up to a boil, I'll see you then, show you what the scum looks like maybe, and then I'll see you when it's done. Right, we've been burbling away for about, I don't know if I came back, so it came up to about a boil after about an hour. There's a lot of liquid in here, a lot of stuff to take the heat, absorb all that heat, so it takes a long time to come up to a boil. Dropped it down, you're going to leave it burbling away like this. Ignore that, that's me brunch. You can sort of see, I hope you can see without, I don't know if I can get in there without the camera misting up, but you can sort of see it like around here, there's just little bits of scum. Collects around the edges a fair bit. And all you want to do is just, with a spoon, ladle works quite well, or a bigger serving spoon like this, just dip the edge just underneath the water level. And just skim the scum. But like I said, this is pretty much just a cosmetic step. You don't need to be really on board with this. But yeah, so we let that reduce by about half. Probably going to take 4 hours, maybe 5. But I'll see you then. Very quickly, so I keep forgetting. No salt. I put no salt in here. I had no salt on the meat when I was roasting it. I've not added any salt. Some recipes call for adding a little bit of salt just to sort of bring out some of the flavours. That's fair enough. But I don't like adding any salt at this point. I add all the salt later on when I'm cooking with the stock. When I'm turning it into a gravy, when I'm turning it into a sauce. So yeah, don't add any salt, otherwise you can end up with just way too much salt further down the line. Alright campers, we are 8, 9, maybe 10 hours deep. When I put this on at 1, about 12 hours in. I had it on a slow burn, 10 hours. You can put it a little bit higher, make it run a little bit quicker. But end of the day, took me a little bit longer. Reduced it all by half. It's not looking too pretty, but we've got to a point where we've got a nice, big, thick, tasty, gelatinous stock going on. What we need to do is separate the liquid from the solids. Now, if you've got like a big bucket or something you can pour it all into for a big strainer, you do you. But I ain't got that. So what I'm going to do, and what you're probably going to having to do, is get yourself a slotted spoon, big strainer, something like this, and just go through and pull out all of the vegetables and the meats and all that sort of stuff. Get yourself a ladle or another spoon and you can just push one against the other and just strain off any excess moisture, because at the end of the day, this stuff we've got in here, this is liquid gold dust, so you want to save as much of that as possible. So just squeeze off any excess moisture and excavate that to a bowl, and then just work your way through it all. Pull out anything and everything that's solid, strain it all off, and you should end up with just a cloudy liquid. Right, now eventually you're going to pull everything out of the stock pot that you can, and you end up with that, which is going to make it look like you've really, like you've gone from here all the way down to there. Just concentrated flavour. What we're going to do now is sieve everything else out. You want all the little bits of bone, all the little bits of carrot, onion, parsnip, celery, all of that. We're going to sieve all of that out. If you've got cheesecloth or muslin or anything like that to hand, sieve it through that. I haven't, so I'm going to use just a sieve. That's where it gets a little bit, especially if you've got a stock pot this big, but needs must. If you want sieve blocks up like this, just get a, any spoon will do, but a ladle is best, and just keep it underneath, just run it around like that, and it'll just work everything through. Right, and that is pretty much that. How much have we got? We have got, this is 3 litres. What did I say? We're now with, I think I said 4. But yeah, we're ending up with 3. But that just means we've reduced it by that little bit more. And now we've got 3 litres of super, super flavourful stock. Give it a little taste now. Absolutely beautiful. And you know, I would literally just drink a cup of this. We've put no salt in that, and as that is perfectly seasoned. That smoked ham hock probably had a load of salt in it. If you have a big enough fridge to put this all as it is in the fridge in one go, do that. As it chills down, you end up with like a layer of fat on top. Skim that fat off, throw it away. You can use it to fry your bacon or fry your eggs in if you want, but it's not like a clarified fat. You can't use it to properly fry in. It's just like a schmaltzy sort of fat. Pretty much useless. What I'm going to do is I've got a couple of these 500ml containers, and I haven't got one to hand because they're in the dishwasher, but I've got a couple of litre containers. So I'm going to measure this out into litres and half litres, just so that I've got them to hand. Like I said, it'll keep a couple of weeks in the fridge, so a week or 2. What I do is I freeze it in little batches, so I'll stick it in an ice cube tray. Honestly, buy a couple of ice cube trays, pour this into it, freeze them. Once they're frozen, knock them all out into a freezer bag, put that in the freezer. Do it over and over and over again. So then if you need some stock, instead of using some stock cubes, like OXO cubes, grab some frozen stock cubes out of the freezer, out your freezer bag of stock, chuck them in a pan, a little bit of boiling water over them if you need to melt them back down again. This is gold. You can already sort of see you've got that sort of like, yeah, like that. It doesn't look great, it's like the skin on custard, but you see that gelatinous layer on top? That is that amazing, unctuous flavour you get that you want in a homemade stock. This stuff tastes amazing. But yes, anyway, I'm going to start off now. I'm going to portion that out and put some of it in the fridge, some of it in the freezer. Actually, I'm going to put it all in the fridge, and once it cools all down there, I'm going to put the rest of it in the freezer. But, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And maybe give it a share. Maybe should have done this before Christmas, because this is the building block of a perfect fucking gravy. Yeah. Or maybe I won't put this out and I'll just save it for next year and do this as my Christmas special for next year. Perfect gravy. Anyway, c'est la vie. I'll see you when I see you. Be good. If you can't be good, be lucky. And all that jazz. And, Uru.